So good morning, and thank you very much for attending our session, the session of IO6, which is about soft skills in engineering. Today, this session will be presented by 4 students who were involved in the project. It's Eva, Philip, Vespina, and George. Will be co-presented by Mrs. Tanya Batrov and our partner, our tutor, Mrs. Ivana Jugovic, who's greatly involved in the project. Unfortunately, she could not make it, but she's with us in all these projects throughout. So next, please. So in this presentation, I will first refer to the rationale of the project and how this was implemented. Then students' voices will be heard, explaining the benefits and challenges, experiences. And finally, I will briefly refer to the next steps that are going to be within our future plans. Next, please. So our intellectual output aims to develop sustainable soft skills for engineers by focusing on 2 pillars. First, presentation skills, and second, student project collaboration international team. This will result in compiling materials for students and teachers that will enable the former to self-learn how to structure a presentation and the latter to instruct presentation skills. Now, next, please. Next slide. Now, there were 3 stages in our implementation. During the first, well, the whole implementation aimed to combine 2 trends. First, to involve students through project-based learning, and once this was over, to engage them into active designing of materials. In order to do this, 6 teams composed of 2 students per team, 1 from each institution, Aristotle University and Jelovar University, were formed and have cooperated closely so far during all stages. It is not worth saying that all students were engineers, yet of different disciplines. Aristotle University students are reading chemical engineering, whereas Jelovar University students are reading mechatronics. So this is our beautiful team. And you can see the 12 students. I suppose you can recognize our faces, students as tutors, which is on the top left right corner. Moving now to the first implementation stage. The first stage lasted between November 2020 till January 2021. 4 sessions lasting more than 2 hours took place. First, students were taught how to plan, structure, design, and deliver a presentation. And once this was completed, each team had to prepare and deliver a 3-minute presentation to all project members. Written feedback was provided by tutors for each presentation, and comments, which was in the form of feedback, was provided by team members as well. This procedure was beneficial for teams as they educate and cooperate with other students from another country in English, allocate tasks for a shared presentation, manage time limitations and deadlines as a team. Generally, this stage worked well and no major cultural or communication problems were noticed. So moving now, next please, moving now to the second implementation stage. At the second implementation stage, students proceeded to a more creative stage as they were asked to produce videos which described specific parts of the presentation skills theory. A common decision was taken to craft animation videos, so each team had to create a video lasting 1 minute in order to present key points of each topic. This stage was a bit challenging as students had to be very succinct, selective, and focused in picking, first of all, the aspects of the theory that would be presented, and also in communicating this into the videos. Next, the video topics were 6, so 6 one-minute videos were produced. The first one related to the whole preparation period before a presentation. Then it was how we structure the overall structuring of a presentation was not presented, but was turned into a video. Then we moved to the actual design of presentations, how to rehearse, how to perform and deliver a presentation, and finally, how to manage answering questions. So at this point, we are going to present you two of the 1 minute animation videos produced by students.
Hello! Do you have a presentation and you don't know how to prepare for it? Here are some tips and tricks that will help you for sure. First, to decide what type of information to include, you need to consider the motivation and the reasoning behind it. Why are you presenting and what is the point of your presentation? Second, research information related to the organizer and pinpoint the target audience demographics to be able to adjust the language and the design of the presentation accordingly. Next, collect enough data about your topic so that you can thoroughly understand it. After that, recognize the key message you want to convey and locate it in your findings. Then you can choose which information to include, as well as find supporting arguments and examples for it. Also, select the most appealing facts for the audience and sprinkle them throughout the presentation. This way, you can grab the audience attention while keeping them focused on the key message. Do all of the above, and you will have successfully prepared for your presentation. Hello!
Now we move to the next video, which is about answering questions.
Answering questions. A crucial part of your presentation is the one about answering questions, since it contains direct communication with your audience. To achieve this, you should be well prepared. So when rehearsing the presentation, try to locate parts that might raise questions and ask those to yourself. This way, you have a better chances to answer the audience's questions correctly. Plus, you will feel more confident. Also, keep in mind that not every question can be answered. Apart from good questions that can easily be answered, you should expect questions that you are not capable or not willing to answer. If a question is too difficult for you to answer, just say that you don't know at the moment, write it down and answer it after you look it up. Moreover, you can ask the listener what he thinks. If a question about something that has already been answered, make clear that you have mentioned it and repeat the answer in brief. If you feel that a question aims to bring you in an awkward position, being irrelevant or belligerent, politely go to the next question and choose to let it pass.
So we now move to the third implementation stage, where once more we moved a step forward and students were asked to do something which is even more demanding, because we asked students to cooperate more and design another set of videos that would be shortened in time this time, as these videos would not exceed 30 seconds. These videos were acted out by students and showed what should be done and what should be avoided while presenting. The purpose of such videos is to provide a visual sample of an effective presentation technique juxtaposed with an ineffective technique. This way, materials, which is the final output of our project, will be supplemented with specific examples that will visually explain techniques leading to a successful and unsuccessful presentation. So this was a very demanding time. The videos, next please. The videos required closer international cooperation, collaboration, teamwork that was practiced. And also, having all these set of videos, we have a major component of our materials ready. So at this point, I'm going to leave the floor for our students. We mentioned earlier that students were greatly involved and engaged in this project. So now Eva will share her experience on the project. Eva reads mechatronics and she's from Jalavar University. Eva, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello. The project itself had an amazing introduction. We began with self-presentation, which has already started teaching us how to present. What made it even better was that we were also getting to know a bit more about each other. Therefore, we were getting a bit more relaxed with each other, and that helped prepare us for the next phase. The teacher showed us the materials they had prepared, and as you heard, our task was to create presentations in pairs. Creating those presentations and presenting was instrumental for us, as we had to manage all the ups and downs when making the presentation, and also we have felt on our skins the rush of presenting. A super important part was getting and giving feedback from each other and from our teachers. For us, it is very important that we were taught how to express our opinions on others' works. By doing that, we also constantly reminded each other of all the things we should or shouldn't do when we were creating the presentations. We learned a lot from the project itself, but also it was amazing that we were learning from each other. For example, my partner showed me some programs that we used, and they were very effective when working in an international team. In the end, I'd like to say that the quality of the program's content was superb, and it was well transferred to us by our teachers. We had constant guidance, but we didn't only study during this project. The best part was that we have also all bonded and we became very good friends, international friends. That would be all from me, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Eva. Now we'll move to challenges, because the project has got pretty challenges and problems that come up and should be faced. So Despina from Aristotle University, reading chemical engineering, will refer on this. Despina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So, as we all know, life is not only about the easy tasks and does not only include roads without obstacles. As for that, during our journey, we definitely faced some challenges, which in the end made our road even more worth mentioning. The language gap. They say that through communication, people are able to connect, and they for sure are. But living in a pandemic life for more than a year, it was difficult first to rearrange our way of thinking. When for that time, no traveling was allowed, our communication was mainly focused between us, our family and friends, a communication that happens naturally in our own native language. So we had to get used to a new way of communication that required a little bit more thinking for us, since not all the words were flowing correctly through our sentences. The time passed and we became used to it. We were all in this together and we helped each other grow. And as for that, right now, at the 24th of June, I can reassure all of you that for me at least, it became a natural way of communication, exactly as if I'm talking to my family and friends. In the same aspect, different languages, different countries, and different programs and schedules. As for that, arranging the unofficial meetings with our partners was a bit of a challenge at first. Luckily enough, understanding and willingness to be the most helpful version of ourselves was key. And just like that, we found a common ground to talk and explain more our creative thoughts. Accepting reality. A sentence that describes itself for all of us. While jumping into a project, I'm sure that most of you might make plans, dreams, and visions of what your ideal result will be, how you will present it, how you will create the visuals, but in general, how amazing and ideal it can be, because you're mostly driven by your passion to work into it. The passion remained the same, but life happened. And accepting that our perfect visions were not able to be realized was for sure the biggest challenge to me. We all, little perfectionists, wanted to create the most amazing and creative results, but have lack of time and equipment, things that guide us as to be more efficient and flexible. As for that, the biggest challenge was to become the most innovative and adaptive persons we could be, adjust to every external circumstance we might face, and tried our best with them. But as I were thinking this again, our biggest challenge became our biggest strength. The fact, the difficulties we had in our roads gave us the chance to improve even more ourselves. And I can reassure all of you that this is one of the biggest lessons we learned. The fact that we are able to create light, even from the dark. Thank you.
Thank you, Despina, which is her last message is create light from the dark. So we can see the sun and the moon for this. And now we move to the benefits that Philip has felt that he has gained from the project. Philip is from Jelliver University, reading mechatronics. Philip,
Hello,
the floor
everyone.
is yours.
Thank you for having me once again. Now, the beauty of this project, at least for myself at least, is that it allowed us to grow as people, both in professional and personal lives. So I'd like to talk about a few things that this project and lovely people I was honored to work with provided for me, and hopefully my colleagues will agree with most of the following statements. Now, first of all, being able to finally work in an international environment was very new for all of us, and a whole new world of sudden possibilities and ideas was thrown our way, and we had to use as much as we could to make the project become a grand success. Naturally, we were also faced with pandemic, which made our work become more online type of work. And we both were able to not only go over those challenges, as Despina said, we were also able to accommodate new skills, which was very beneficial for us, from using new softwares to also being able to break the language barrier. And that allowed us to evolve to a new level. It made us become more flexible to our project partners, both when it came to the time and ideas, which made us think, which made things go smoother. We were able to use a lot of ideas from every single member of the group in order to make something truly unique, which you will see in the later meetings when the project finalizes. The next thing what we got was an actual work experience. The deadlines and requirements made us think that it's an actual job. And while the casual communication with our group partners made it also seem like an enjoyable way to spend time with friends. So I would say that these polar opposite feelings are very common in actual working world, where you will be faced with professionalism while also being able to, more casually communicate with your partners in order to make the workplace seem more friendly to you. And that will also allow you to make the project look better, make it in faster, time space. Also, it showed us that even though you need to make something in a professional manner, you can make it while having fun with your partner. And in the end, that enjoyment slowly but surely slips into the project for a small, tiny bit, but it also gives it an extra dash of specialty. And at the end, the most important thing that we received, in my opinion at least, was the friendship with so many lovely, smart, and hardworking people we were able to communicate with. That would be all from me. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Philip, for this. Now, a very important part of the project was feedback. Feedback, as teachers, we know that it could be extremely beneficial, sometimes disappointing for students. So I think George is going to comment on this. George is from Aristotle University and he reads chemical engineering. George, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for having me. In order to completely understand the value of feedback, it is necessary to highlight a specific parameter, which is the relationships that were developed among all project team members, tutors and students alike. In a social environment where mutual respect and sustained effort towards a common goal prevail, each and everyone will selflessly contribute towards that goal. In our occasion, tutors as well as as well as uh, peer team members provided constructive and targeted feedback. The purpose of feedback is to improve the existing idea as well as the way this idea is communicated. So, in our project, this was achieved through feedback. Each one of the 1-minute videos, as well as the shorter videos, was followed by a series of commentary and feedback. On the one hand, from the students, and on the other, from the tutors. In one case, by the time we were already familiar with the project, with the process, a form of written evaluation was prepared by the tutors for the students in order to evaluate each other. It was at that point where the progress we have made since we began became apparent. A total of 10 feedbacks were provided to me. 6 out of 10 were from my professors, and 4 were from my colleagues. While at the same time, I have provided myself 4 times feedback. Thank you. While listening to the opinions of the rest of the team members, I identified parts of my own presentations that seemed fine to me at that point, but the collective and more objective point of view of the rest helped me see beyond the subjectivity with which I viewed the events. Each feedback broadened my horizons, and every subsequent presentation was better structured and more elegant than the previous one. At the same time, I felt confident because I was following the theoretical principles, standards, and advice provided to me by my peers and my professors. Next slide, please. Thank you.
No.
No. One slide backwards.
Yeah.
Thank you. Was it this one?
Next one.
Yes. No.
Yeah.
This one. Thank you. Receiving feedback, my partner and I were called upon to review our work once more, which led to more hours of collaboration. This, in turn, strengthened our relationship and our ability to work with someone with whom we don't share a common native language and possibly culture. At this point, please allow me to cite an example from our project in which the provision of feedback played a major role in the radical change of one of our videos. My partner and I, when we were given our subject, which was how to rehearse for a presentation using the PowToons online application, as we had already agreed upon with the rest of the team, we used a fixed template of the well-known Star Wars franchise. Being a lifelong fan, I could not miss this opportunity, obviously. So we made the necessary changes and adjustments to present our subject using this template and sent it to our professors to get their feedback. In the emails we received, it was highlighted that those members of the audience that had not previously watched the films could not follow the meaning of the script, while some remarks regarding the structure and the content of the slides were also made. Benefiting from these reviews, we created a new video from scratch, which did not require any specific background knowledge from the audience, and which fully covered the aspects of our subject. And in the meantime, it also faithfully followed the instructions of our tutors. Having narrated this experience, I would like to make I would like to make some remarks regarding the videos. Since the presenter does not come in immediate contact with their viewers, it is of utmost importance to deliver their content with accuracy and succinctness. For this reason, thanks to the feedback we received, we were able to better adapt the video to the needs of the audience. And to wrap this topic up, through reception of feedback, anyone can improve their skills and even learn a few things about themselves they didn't already know. Moreover, by providing and receiving feedback through dialogue, even a seemingly dull presentation can turn into a captivating one. And finally, on a more romantic note, each presentation generates different feedback from its audience, marking it as unique among other unique presentations. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, George. So now we have completed students' contributions to these presentations. And I would like to briefly review our project, it started from the presentation skill theory that was instructed to students. Then students applied this theory by delivering presentations and starting designing parts of the materials that will be delivered in the end. So far, 16 videos have been produced. Next, please. Now, our next steps for the future. We have already followed the steps according to, and the stages according to our initial plan. There are no delays. The project develops very smoothly and the intellectual outputs will be delivered on time. So our next is to compile and finalize the materials that will be prepared separately for teachers and for students. And these materials will integrate the videos that have already been produced as a summary, and sometimes a visual example of presentation skills. Also, the experience gained, the challenges faced, the way these were overcome, as well as different tips on cultural communication aspects have been noticed so far, will be reported and integrated in the materials as tips that may enable future engineers to communicate more efficiently in global contexts. Next, please. Ivana, Tanya, and myself, we are very, very happy and grateful for having such a great team of students working with motivation for the project, being creative, becoming flexible and adaptable, and trying to be as innovative as possible. And you can see some of these results, and I'm sure in our next meeting you will see many more things. As a team, we will proceed with sustained motivation to complete our project on time, and we all wish that this remains in our hearts, not only as a project, but as a true team building example for the future. On behalf of everyone, we would like to thank you for attending this session, and we are all here for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this is really more than only digital applauding worth. Yes, so thank you very much, the teachers and the students, for this. So as we have some students here, maybe you have some questions also for the students. I just wanted to add, because some of the students, you heard that they were talking about France, although the project IO6 is more about Croatia and Greece. But some of the students like Eva and Philip, they participated also in IO7 with Greek students from Athens and Russian students. So you will hear about that tomorrow if you're there, tomorrow afternoon. So they are really experienced project students now, I guess. but maybe there are some questions from the floor.
Yes, please. Jamie, yes.
Hello, and well done, everyone. It was really great to hear about the progress that you've made and also the fun that you have had. Something that you've presented has made me think about a skill that I wish my engineering students had more confidently. And it's not so much answering questions, it's asking questions after a presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that many of my students, they ask very long questions, very complicated questions that don't actually end in a question. Very often, it's very difficult for the presenter to realize whether they're being presented with a statement or a question. And I wonder whether there's any, if you have time or interest within your project to do something similar on asking questions after a presentation. Because I really liked the videos that you presented, and I just felt that what I would love to show my students is something similar that included asking questions as well as answering.
Thank you very much. That's a very, I think it's a great idea. And you can see the students of our, the heads of our students nodding. So we really appreciate your idea. And I'm sure Tanya, where are you? Will probably, yes. If you'd like to say, probably if we have time, yes, we can incorporate this. Tanya, please.
Yes, we could do it, but we have to know that we can't manage our audience. Audience is allowed to asking us questions, but idea is great, and we will incorporate it in our materials. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
I mean, can I give a suggestion if that's possible?
Yes, please.
So usually students are afraid to ask questions because they feel they are either going to sound stupid or something like that, something they're shy. So perhaps I would not say forcing is not a right word to say it, but maybe pushing a question on them would help you. So instead of immediately starting with the presentation, immediately starting with a lesson, maybe you should start with a question. What do you think about that? What do you know about this? Can anyone explain what this and that is? And only after you hear some of the, information from them, only then you start explaining what that actually is, because you're a professional in that area. Because when you put a question first and you see some of the information they give, you already know approximately what they do know, what they don't know, what they understand, what they don't understand. Perhaps asking the question yourself first, and how should I say it? Maybe pushing a question on them first, and then working around that question would be better, because I don't think there's a way that you can teach someone to ask a question, because it's their personal way of showing what they don't understand, what they want to know more. And people are either going to ask, or they will be afraid, or sometimes even lazy. Let's be honest, like a lot of students are just lazy and don't want to ask questions. So maybe giving them questions beforehand would help.
Can I respond to that? I didn't put my hand up. I try to, if I have a class and they are giving presentations to each other, I try to say to them that part of the deal in an academic presentation is that the audience has some responsibilities, and that it's really, the kind of feedback that you get from them just making eye contact, and there's the issues with cameras on and so on. But you can give suggestions, when you're listening. If you see a slide in the presentation and there was a detail that confused you, make a note of it. If you heard a statistic and you thought, where did you get that from? How do you know that? Make a note of it. So you can say, maybe ask a methodological question, or if you've got a personal intense reaction of surprise, shock, disgust, make a note of it. And then there are some ways to construct a personal response. But the point about when they give Jamie's point, giving a long and rambling turn instead of a question. If they're doing that, they've achieved the norm of academia. I think that's very typical. You know, this is a comment, not a question, that kind of thing. So that was my 2 cents.
I have a question. Yes, did you have agreed with the criteria for the feedbacks? And was it a feedback with the whole class together in a role, or in another way? How did you do that?
You mean if there was a structured form for the feedback? Is this what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Tanya, would you like to reply, or?
Yes, we had a structured template of feedbacks, which we were agreed before about. And we feel each sheet, feedback sheet for each teams. And we also, between our teams of professor, agreed about each word in this feedback. Vasilia?
Yes, exactly. The formal feedback that was provided by tutors was along these lines. The student feedback, which was provided immediately after, or I don't know, I can remember exactly if it was immediately after the presentation, or we had all presentations and then the feedback this point.
We had the immediate feedback, and we also had a written feedback at one point.
Yeah. So that was a little bit more spontaneous on the part of the students, but also what was very, very interesting is that they provided short notes. I wouldn't say formal, you know, written feedback afterwards through chats, or, you know, they created a group in the messenger and they sent each other, or through emails. So there was this feedback provision was something like online. Not online, sorry, ongoing. It was ongoing. So at some point, this cooperation became sort of, it was not just within the team. For example, when they had to create the second videos, which were very, very demanding, because they were so time limited, 30 seconds is just nothing. Almost nothing. They asked each other, how do you think we should do this? And then I think they saw each other's videos and they commented on this. So yes, there was formal feedback in the formal form, but it was informal, especially student feedback within the teams and within the whole team, because we had 6 teams, but we are a team, we're a big group.
How many students were involved?
12, 6 teams. Okay. 6 teams, 2 students per team, and each team had 1 student from one university and from the another from the other. So practically they didn't know each other. They had the language barrier. They hadn't cooperated before. They hadn't been involved in something like that. So that was something that they had to build.
Maybe I can just add something to the feedback. I feel that if you do these projects where they are working in autonomy, guided autonomy, of course, the feedback is really essential. And this is really the added value also from us and between peers. And what we did in another project where my German colleague Aloysia, who's with us today, also participated too, is that we had tutors for the group. So there were more universities, we had 7 universities. So, but we had tutors for groups, and each group were only one of our students. So it was interesting also to have a look at the students from other universities, especially on group grades, for example. And we had really a very specific grid for the group tasks and the individual tasks. It took us a lot of time. I think this is really what for teachers, it's hard to do that, but it's really important for us to give this feedback. Otherwise, it's difficult for the students to progress if they work in autonomy. So thank you for the question, Geraldine, and for your answers, Tatjana and Vasilia. I think it's an important point. Deborah, you raised your hand, but put it down again.
Yes, I did, because it changed to another topic, but I wanted to go back a little bit to the idea of questions, and first to congratulate the tutors of this IO. I think this is an amazing project. Congratulations to the students. You did fantastic presentations of your work, and honestly, it's made my day. I'm very happy that this was our first presentation, and you did a really, really good job. But going back to what Jamie and John were mentioning about the questions, I agree that this is something that is not very well studied. A couple of years ago, I did some research in PhD questions. What were the questions that the PhD evaluators were doing when the students were actually defending their PhD? And there was some authors from Australia that had done some similar research, but my idea was to update it so as to alleviate students, because their biggest fear obviously is, what questions are they going to ask me? So this may be something that we could continue to work on, but the idea is that there's 3 types of questions. If we classify them, the ones that go deeper. So I want to ask about, this detail, as John said, this statistic, or where did you get this idea? Or I want to correct something that you said maybe that wasn't quite in line. But generally it goes into details. They want the student to have something deeper to say. There's other questions that are meant to make the student shine. So, we always have evaluators who want the students to be able to elaborate, or to go into more detail, or what are you going to do with this in the future? Or I recommend you do this to publish it. So those are always really good. And then we always have the ones who want to show how much I know. My research did this, or my research did that, or you could continue in this line, or I suggest that you could have done it like this. These are the other types that might be kind of tricky. So maybe if we could look at how the students to see a classification and examples, that could also help students to see how they can make questions. And I agree, John, when students are doing their in classroom settings, my students were obliged to ask questions, because this is when the student who is presenting can really shine, can really get, it can improve their grade, right? Even students who maybe didn't do great presentations, they were really good at answering questions. So this is something that I think we could continue to work on. And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of research out there. So again, congratulations to you and your students. I think you did an amazing job, and keep working. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind words and your evaluation. I think a big thank you to our students. They worked very hard for this, and they were very, very fresh, willing, innovative. They just wanted to participate and to really get engaged. So yes, I think we all 3 tutors have to say a big, big thank you to them.